guys, coming to you live from YouTube. This is Miss Clark's tutorial on how to pass the AP European History exam. So these videos that I'm creating for you are really just meant to be review tools. Everything that I'm teaching right now is nothing new. It's all things that we've reviewed in class. But I know that, trying to remember all the things that we learned in August is really, really hard when we're getting into April and May. So these videos are for you to kind of review, like what are some of the key points that I need to make sure that I remember to be able to pass the AP Euro exam. Maybe night before you want to review these videos. I'm gonna go pretty quickly through the things that you need to know, but this in coordination, everything that we're doing in class should be able to help you to be able to get possibly a 5 or at least a 3 on that AP Euro exam. One is the Renaissance. Okay, so our first key concept today is going to be the worldview of European intellectuals shifted from one based on ecclesiastical and classical authority to one based on primarily inquiry and observation of the natural world. Okay, so that sounds very fancy, but it's basically just shifting from the church is all to art and humanism and the celebration of secularism and humanism and just humans in general. And so, after we get through our plague that we're kind of ending off on, fleas on rats. After we do that, then we're getting into the Renaissance. So around like the 1450s, and it goes on for a pretty long time. So the things that you kind of need to know is, first off, what's the difference between the Northern Renaissance and the Southern Renaissance? So if you remember, the Renaissance is going to come to Italy first. So why is it coming to Italy first? It's coming to Italy first because that's where all the shipping and the trading is going to come from. So those Middle Eastern kind of ideas are going to come through and they're going to go to Italy first. And so with Italy growing, it's going to be more secular, which is less away from the authority of the church, even though we have the Pope in Rome. And then the North is still going to be pretty Christian for the most part. They're going to have more of that Christian side of humanism. All right, so when we're talking about Italy and Germany, for that matter, they are not unified yet. They are still broken up into different city-states. And so the couple of city-states, I think there's 6 of them. Yep, 6, okay. There's 6 of them. And so there's gonna be Florence, Genoa, Milan, Rome, Naples, and Venice. So whatever mnemonic device that you have to come up with, you can sing it in your head, you can sing it to the tune of Happy Birthday, whatever you gotta do to remember them, like Florence, Genoa, Milan, Rome, Naples, and Venice, whatever you gotta do to make sure that you remember those city-states. When we're talking about Italy, we're gonna be talking about where's all this money coming from? What's it gonna be coming from, investors like the Medici family. The Medici family is going to be huge as far as investing into the arts and sponsoring this Italian Renaissance. They have a huge impact in Italy, especially. When we're talking about art, European history is a lot about art and a lot about, especially the symbolism. Specifically when you're looking at Renaissance art, you have to think about, is it religious? How is it depicting the human body? Especially if it's like the mother or anything like that, that's definitely gonna be a link to a Christian point right there. So, when we're talking about architecture, we're going to talk about Brunelleschi's Il Duomo. That's going to be a really important building that you need to know. Donatello's statue of David. That's going to be a big statue. Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. That's a pretty famous painting. Raphael. Leonardo da Vinci is going to be a really big name. And with his painting of like the Mona Lisa. And then Michelangelo with the Sistine Chapel. So, as long as you remember those Ninja Turtle names, like you'll be fine for that. Just kind of remembering like, how are they painting the human body? How are they painting a religious subject? Are they not painting a religious subject? How are they using light? And is it 3D? Is it gonna be rich people? Is it gonna be poor people? That's the sort of thing that they want you to note if they show you a picture and ask you like what's going on in this picture. Like I've said before, humanism, that's going to be that growth of humanism. Petrarch is going to be the father of humanism, and humanism, the way that I like to remember it, is just like celebrating humanity, kind of apart from God. Except when you're talking about like Christian humanism, that's going to be like celebrating the humanism because of God and God's creation. It's less going to be God, and more about like our relationship with God. Dante is going to be writing the Divine Comedy. Botticello is going to have the Decameron. Baldassare Castiglione is going to write the Book of the Courtier, which is basically how to be a Renaissance man. So if you can remember, Castiglione is going to be an Italian man to write about the Book of the Courtier. And to be a Renaissance man, that's what you're going to have to connect with him and his thing. And then the other thing that you really, really got to remember is Niccolo Machiavelli. He writes this book called The Prince. And in it, he's basically saying that the end justifies the means. He's going to be talking about that authoritarian ruler who, you know, he might not be that popular, but he knows how to get things done. And what's good for the majority is good for the country, not necessarily going to take that individualistic view. When we're talking about the Northern Renaissance, like I said, they're going to still be taking that Renaissance ideas, but they're going to still be religiously based for the most part. Just like the Medici family existed in southern Italy, in northern, like Great Britain, and specifically Germany, you're gonna have these banking family called the Fuggers, however you want to pronounce that. And then also from Germany, we're gonna get Johann Gutenberg's The Printing Press. And as we move on and forward into the Reformation, the printing press is gonna be a big deal. Because now we can make books, and with the increase in literacy, the common people are going to be able to actually read and spread ideas way faster than, you know, monks and handwritten books and things like that. When we're talking about the Renaissance, they are almost guaranteed to ask you a question about the Renaissance leaders and the church and in science. So we're going to come up with that idea of the science and the scientific revolution. One of those big ones is definitely going to be Nicolaus Copernicus, who's going to be taking that geocentric idea that the Earth is the center of the world and then expanding it to no, maybe the sun is the center of the world. You're also going to see like an increase in mysticism through Thomas à Kempis when he wrote The Imitation of Christ, talking about the depth of religion and going deeper than just the surface level of the church. Erasmus, so just like Petrarch is going to be the father of humanism, Erasmus is going to be the father of Christian humanism. He's basically going to be making fun of the clergy in this book that he wrote called The Praise of Folly. And in that, he's basically talking about our Christian faith and humanism and no longer holding the church to such reverence, which we're going to see later with, of course, the Protestant Reformation. Art. There's really two important people that you got to remember for art. You're going to have Utrecht Dürer, totally mispronounced that one, and Peter Bruegel the Elder, who's going to be mainly painting the common people and, you know, your average everyday scene. It's kind of like the older version of Where's Waldo. So when we're thinking about the Renaissance, and my last couple seconds here, what's going on in the world, the height of the Renaissance in each of these countries? Well, if we're looking at England, we're going to be looking at the Elizabethan age, when Elizabeth I is ruling. And so from there, we're going to see people like Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare and Sir Thomas More, who writes the book Utopia, which is all about creating that perfect society that we are constantly going to be struggling with throughout the rest of the time now. Thanks, Thomas More. We also have France is going, you know, like France is France. So they're always going through something. You know, the bourgeoisie is ruling because it's going through the 100 Years' War, and then we're moving closer and closer towards French nationalism and all of those monarchs when we get there. Spain's kind of hurting at the beginning of the Renaissance. They're not quite caught up because they expelled all of the Jews and all of the Muslims. Especially with that link between Ferdinand and Isabella. When they get to the Age of Exploration, they're doing really well. But until that point, they're a little bit further behind than other countries because of purely like the economic loss of kicking out all the Jews and the Muslims. There's two things that you got to know as far as like art and literature. That's going to be Don Quixote, which is written by Miguel de Cervantes, and then El Greco. He's going to be a really famous Spanish painter. As far as painters and artists go for the Netherlands, you're going to see Jan van Eyck and Rembrandt. There's going to be two really, really famous Dutch painters. Women in the Renaissance. If they ask you about women in the Renaissance, you got to remember Catherine de Medici. She's going to be from the Medici family, and she's going to be one of the strongest feminist leaders of the time. However, women at this point, it's still based off of manorial system, which is basically like a feudal system. We're making progress, but we're still pretty in the medieval ages at this time period. And women are still going to be banned from guilds. They're still sort of, and the poor family, they're still going to be helping to just make sure the family is good to go and helping with the family. The rich women are still going to be homebound. And so we're not going to see massive strides in like female suffrage until much later. All right, so those are the things that you need to remember for the Renaissance. What's the difference between the North and the South? Making sure that we understand humanism. What are going to be some key artists, and what are we looking for in those paintings? And then just making sure that we hit a couple of those key names, so that way when you see it, you're able to recognize their names.